I never imagined forgiveness could feel like fire in my veins. They say forgiveness frees the soul, but mine felt heavy, burdened, and sharp, like a blade I carried silently. For 15 years I had loved him, Julian, my husband, my partner. And for 15 years, he had been betraying me slowly, methodically, without me ever suspecting. It started with small things, late nights at work, strange receipts, hushed phone calls. I told myself it was paranoia, a symptom of my own insecurities. I wanted to believe him because I loved him. I had built a life around the image of Julian as the perfect husband, strong, kind, affectionate. But the truth is, I had built that life on lies. I remember the day I first noticed something was off. He came home smelling like someone else's perfume, a subtle floral fragrance I had never smelled on him before. He kissed me lightly on the cheek, smiling that charming smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. I stared at him, searching for answers, and found nothing. I tucked the unease away, like a seed planted in fertile soil, knowing it would grow. Over the months, I began noticing patterns. Weekend business trips that conveniently aligned with important dates, like our anniversary or my birthday. The subtle disappearance of receipts from our joint account. The occasional message I accidentally glimpsed on his phone, quickly closed before I could read it. Every small inconsistency was a whisper, a shadow that grew louder in my mind. The breaking point came one evening while I was folding laundry in our bedroom. His jacket, tossed carelessly on a chair, caught my eye. Something in the pocket felt unusual. I reached inside and found an envelope. My heart froze. Inside was a note, short, casual, almost innocent. Yet it cut me deeper than any knife could. Can't wait to see you tonight. The handwriting was unmistakable. Not mine, not any of my friends. I felt my world tilt. The air around me grew thick, suffocating. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to demand answers. But I didn't. I knew better. I had to survive this moment with control. For weeks, I pretended nothing had happened. I smiled at his jokes, laughed at his stories, cooked his favorite meals. Every gesture was a carefully constructed performance, a mask of normalcy. Behind it, I was gathering evidence, receipts, messages, small inconsistencies. Every tiny clue that would later form a perfect puzzle of his betrayal. At night, I would lie awake, listening to his soft breathing beside me. The bed, once a place of comfort, felt like a stage of lies. I replayed our life in my mind. Our first date, the wedding, the quiet nights when I thought he was asleep. Every memory now had a jagged edge, cut by the truth I had unearthed. I began to plan meticulously. I needed a way to confront him without losing myself. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want to cry. I wanted justice, quiet, controlled, intimate revenge. And it had to be perfect. Weeks passed. Julian continued his charade, unaware that I knew. One evening, he came home from another supposed business trip, tired and distracted. He kissed me lightly, oblivious to the storm behind my eyes. I watched him as he loosened his tie, removed his jacket, and sat down at the dining table. The air between us was calm, but I was a coiled spring ready to strike. I had contacted a private investigator months earlier, under the guise of hiring someone for unrelated work. I asked him to track Julian's movements and gather evidence of his infidelity. The investigator, discreet and professional, delivered photographs, messages, and receipts that painted a damning picture. Every piece confirmed what I had already known, that Julian had been seeing another woman for years. I waited for the right moment. It came with our anniversary weekend. Julian insisted on going to a cabin, just the two of us, To celebrate. I agreed, smiling, hiding the plan that had been forming in my mind. I packed the car, making sure the envelope I had prepared, identical to the one I had discovered months ago, was in his luggage. Inside was a simple, chilling message. This is what it feels like to be betrayed. The weekend arrived. Julian was oblivious, chatting happily about our anniversary plans as I drove, carefully following the investigator's instructions. When we reached the cabin, he unpacked, humming a tune I once loved, unaware of the storm I had orchestrated. The investigator was already there, posing as a local business associate. When Julian entered the room for what he thought was a casual meeting, he was met with photographs, messages, and receipts, a clear trail of his own lies. I stayed hidden in the shadows, watching as his confident mask crumbled. The man who had once made me feel safe now looked like a ghost of himself, realizing fully the magnitude of his betrayal. I didn't rush in. I didn't yell or accuse. I watched silently, savoring the moment, letting the weight of his actions settle on him. Finally, when he was trembling with the realization, I stepped forward, calm, composed, and utterly in control. I handed him the envelope I had placed in his luggage. He opened it, reading aloud the simple message. This is what it feels like to be betrayed. His eyes widened as he saw the proof of his actions. Every photograph, every receipt, every message, all evidence of his secret life, was now in front of him. I could see the guilt and fear in his expression, the man he had been hiding from everyone, finally exposed. I spoke softly, my voice steady. Do you understand now? This is the pain you caused me for years. You lied to me, deceived me, and yet you still believed I wouldn't notice. He nodded, speechless. I didn't wait for him to beg for forgiveness. I didn't offer him solace. I had already done my part. I had given him the chance to face the consequences of his actions. Leaving the cabin that evening, I felt an unfamiliar sense of calm. I had orchestrated the perfect revenge without violence, without yelling, without tears. The justice I sought was quiet, intimate, and complete. Julian had seen the full extent of his betrayal, and I had reclaimed my peace. In the following months, I rebuilt my life. I took up new hobbies, reconnected with old friends, and rediscovered parts of myself that had been buried under years of deceit. I didn't seek revenge in court or in public. The satisfaction was private, personal, a secret only I carried. Whenever I think of Julian, I don't feel anger anymore. I don't feel pain. I feel strength. I feel liberation. I feel the kind of power that only comes from surviving betrayal, enduring it, and turning it into something you control. I forgave him, yes, but he never knew the truth. He never realized that I had orchestrated the entire weekend, the investigator, the photographs, the envelope, all for one purpose: to make him feel a fraction of the pain he had caused me. And that, in the end, was enough. Because revenge isn't always about anger or violence. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's subtle. And sometimes it's powerful enough to free your soul without ever letting the other person know.